JSB Talks Digital Transformation.
Hello and welcome to JSB Talks Digital, the podcast for marketers, digital change agents, and those of you bringing your skills into the digital age. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke, and this podcast is brought to you by Digital Training Institute. In the sixth in a series of special shows on digital transformation, I look at how conservative organisations can embrace social media without fear to manage their reputations. So coming up in today's episode, I have a digital transformation conversation with Lucy Hall, founder of Social Media Day UK. In Shoutouts, 3 conservative organisations using social media to great effect. In JSB's column, how to approach social media if you're afraid of putting your organisation out there. And find out what social media tool will help you monitor brand sentiment across the social web.
Digital Transformation Conversation.
I am delighted to be joined on today's show by Lucy Hall. Lucy is co-founder of the UK's #1 social media event for SMEs called Social Day. She is also co-founder of Aviso Media Limited, a digital marketing business based in the southeast of England. With 15 years experience in media sales and marketing, Lucy educates business owners on the use of social media for business. Lucy, you are very welcome to JSB Talks Digital. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about conservative organisations. So for example, public sector organisations, emergency services and frontline responders, they're really fearful of putting themselves and their brands on social media. Do you think they really have a choice in today's digital age not to engage?
I think the choice is always there. They don't have to engage, but they really should be engaging. I think as we, go along in our digital journeys, I think it's really important that we're able to connect with, everybody that we need to connect with, basically. And I think these organisations will be kind of like, they're either missing a trick or they're missing out on being able to respond to people when negative comments happen and that kind of thing. If they're not there and they're not talking to people, then the negative comments and that kind of thing are going to happen anyway.
You're absolutely right. By ignoring social media, you're ignoring content that is perhaps being put out about your brand. So
Exactly.
That's really good advice. Now, social media is becoming ever more important for reputation management. And what platforms, in your experience, do you think are best for communicating and upholding an organisation's and indeed public figures' reputations?
Okay. Well, in terms of public figure reputations, from a professional point of view, I think LinkedIn is a really, really important platform because on LinkedIn, people are able to create thought leadership posts and that kind of thing. And when it comes to criticism, for example, the criticism is a lot better structured on LinkedIn. So they're less likely to get trolls. They're more likely to get a better structured criticism from people.
So LinkedIn, absolutely. Do you think any other platform is worth it for reputation management?
Yeah, I mean, of course I do. Of course, it depends on the the type of brands that these individuals represent. For some people, it could be Facebook or Twitter. Twitter's really important because it's one of the first places that people go, when they're going to make a public complaint or when they're going to, find someone to talk to publicly. And again, it depends on the genre as well. For LinkedIn, I would say, is the #1 place for people to, create that thought leadership content and in a professional capacity.
Social media is evolving at such a rapid rate. Now, you and I both know that because we're involved in the industry.
Yeah.
And we have to invest our energy, our time, even money and upskilling ourselves in training programs. But how do you think larger organisations can keep on top of everything?
Okay, I think this is quite a difficult one because a lot of the time they don't have anybody in there that's specifically for social media. I think over the last few years they have started to bring people in that capacity. But I think it's important that they go to, events or they go to training sessions to keep up with the latest information. And, if they can't keep on top of everything themselves, then they should bring in someone, from the outside, somebody to advise them or to consult them on what's happening perhaps once a month within social media. But they don't have to hop on to all of the latest things that are happening, of course. It's important they stick with strategy. But if something new is going to happen that's going to make a large, big change in their business, these businesses are going to need to know about it.
Great advice. Now, when it comes to strategy and corporate communications, do you think that they should segregate their accounts based on audience type?
Possibly. I think it's important because there are different audience on different platforms. Like I said before, LinkedIn is a very kind of professional network, whereas Facebook, the kind of content and the kind of language that people will be using is going to be different. So, yeah, accounts should be segregated if it's possible, if it doesn't take up too much, capacity.
Let's talk about video because, after all, everybody in our industry is talking about video right now, and it's dominating most social media conversations and most platforms as platforms evolve and release new video capabilities. How powerful do you think video is for larger organizations, and should they be fearful of it or should they embrace it with some good coaching and strategy?
Well, I can talk from experience here because we do work with large organisations on video. And the problem that we've seen is that there's so much red tape to go through before they will actually release a video, because you've got different branding teams who are making sure the content's on brand, and then they've got a lot of message to get across, but they won't get it across in the way that is going to work well for social media because there's too many people to go through. So it's hugely important, but because the larger organisations have so many different people to go through, it creates a barrier between getting the content out quickly and timely.
When it comes to large organisations versus small businesses operating in social media, sometimes we think that large organisations have an advantage because they have budget and they have human resources to put behind campaigns. But sometimes I think small organisations and small businesses and solopreneurs have an advantage because, they have less fear and they have less, structures to overcome to actually get front of social and front of screen. What's your own opinion on that?
Well, I think, SMEs totally have an advantage over the larger corporate businesses in terms of they can do things, they can react to things quickly. Like I said before, there's red tape in bigger organisations. They have to talk about it, they have to have meetings about it, and they have to speak to several different people before they will confirm that they're going to do something. And so by that time, the SME businesses or the small businesses and your micro business would have already jumped on the bandwagon and already started doing things around what it is that they're trying to do on social media. And that, it's the same with video and it's the same with the content that they create, because what happens is you have to go through, strict branding guidelines. So they just can't create a quick piece of content and put it out there for social media and be that reactive a lot of the time. So I think the bigger businesses can really learn from SME businesses when it comes to social media, actually.
And finally, what reputation management tips for social media would you give to anybody? Because I think reputation management is so important when it comes to putting yourself out there on the social web.
Okay, so first of all, I think it's really important that even if you're not actively putting content out onto social media about your company or trying to actually get people to engage with you, that you're listening. So by doing a quick search online to find out if people are actually talking about your company and then responding accordingly is a good way to make sure you're upholding your reputation, because if anything negative is being said about you, at least you can react to it quickly. You can set up tools. So there are various different tools that you can use, like social sign-in and Hootsuite, where you can set up keyword searches, so you can see if people are talking about your business, and then you're able to, again, jump in and reply, if this then that, also do it, if this then that, IFTTT. So you can set up these triggers to see if people are actually talking about you. I think it's really important that if people are talking about you negatively, that you just deal with it swiftly and you talk to them and you use empathy or, some creative way to respond. Tesco's do a really good job of it when somebody complains, and then they'll reply with something quite funny, and it's actually really good PR for them. So if they can use humour, that's really, that's a really good way to deal with it. The most important thing that companies can do is actually be there to address, when something happens on social media, or if somebody is talking about their company in a bad way.
Lucy, great tips. And if you want to find out more about Social Day in the UK, please log on to their website, socialday.co.uk, and you'll get links to all of Lucy's social profiles there. Thank you so much for joining me, Lucy, on JSB Talks Digital.
Thank you for having me.
Shoutouts.
In this part of the show, I give shout-outs to brands, organisations and individuals whose work online is worth talking about. In today's show, I'm sharing 3 social media case studies from large organisations that are using social to great effect.
1.
Ireland's National Health Service, the HSE, has a range of public information health campaigns that are communicated really well across social media. In fact, some of the best social campaigns have an offline element too. The case study I'm choosing is Quit, a public health campaign to encourage and support people to give up smoking. Have a look at their digital storytelling on quit.ie and see how seamlessly the messaging transfers to social. They have also built up a significant community of quitters who support each other. So the peer support element of their campaign is just as important as the messages being pushed out.
2.
You might think of police forces as being conservative and afraid to embrace social media. However, this is certainly not the case. And in fact, I have written a whole book on how law enforcement is using social media for their business operations. The Icelandic Police Service are avid users of Instagram, and quite often their Insta photos and accompanying hashtags even make mainstream news.
3.
The Australian Tourist Board have nailed digital storytelling on their social networks. They are also very gifted at leveraging fan content for greater engagement. In doing this, they are curating content created by their community and resharing it out. This means they are being relevant in their approach. Check them out at australia.com, which links to all their social profiles. Public sector organisations can excel in their communications by embracing social and skipping past the mainstream media to storytell and engage with their fans.
JSB Talks.
So how do you approach social media if you're afraid of putting your organisation out there? Fear paralyses progress, in my opinion. The success of any social media marketing strategy can never be measured by the numbers or followers or likes that you get on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or YouTube. There's a bigger picture for public sector and conservative organisations to look at. You have to look at your organisational objectives. Start out by asking yourself, what are our corporate goals in using social media? These objectives are often aided by creating genuine connections with citizens because at the end of the day, without an audience trust, your messages will never be heard. Creating a large social following is great, but it isn't the most important goal when harnessing your organisation's social media potential. So for example, for a National Health Service, it might be about communicating health promotion information. For a police force, it might be about building up a community who can ultimately help them when they have a missing persons campaign. What really matters, however, is how engaged your followers are. Having a large group of unengaged followers is similar to being stood in a crowded room shouting about what you are doing, but with nobody paying attention. If I was to give one piece of advice to a public sector organisation about their social media strategy, I would say, think about your traditional communications methods and your PR efforts. Everything that you do in this realm of your work should be transferred to social media. If you want to have a digital transformation conversation with me, simply drop me an email to joanne@digitaltraining.ie. After all, everything starts with a story or a conversation.
Social media tool of the week.
Do you know what people are saying about your organisation online? Are you checking your company's social mentions on a daily basis? If you're not, then you should be. It's not enough to simply ignore social conversations as a tactic because this could be detrimental to your organisation's reputation. But to help you manage this effectively, I use a tool called IceRocket. It allows you to instantly search blogs, Twitter and Facebook for specific terms. IceRocket doesn't require an account and it's easy to use. Just type in your term in the search box and choose the channel you want to search: blogs, Twitter, Facebook, or you can choose Search All. IceRocket is a great way to find information and to help you influence how you deal with people mentioning or indeed criticising your brand online. Find out more at icerocket.com. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of JSB Talks Digital Transformation. I hope you're enjoying the special series as much as I am. As always, I have everything discussed on today's show over on my blog at digitaltraining.ie. And make sure you never miss an episode of my podcast by subscribing on your smartphone, on iTunes or on Stitcher. You can also subscribe on SoundCloud. I'd love your feedback on this series, so be sure to tweet me your thoughts to @tweetsbyJSB, or feel free to post a comment on our Facebook page, Digital Training Institute. You can also send me a Snapchat to JSB Snap. I'm Joanne Sweeney Burke. This is JSB Talks Digital Transformation. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.
JSB Talks Digital Transformation.